around. Let's get stuck into it.
All right, let's do it. Hello and welcome to the finals here of Grand Prix Milan. A huge amount at stake in this final between the second-ranked pro player Jeremy Dezani on the left of our screen and top Swiss pro Nico Bohny on the right. If Jeremy Dezani wins this match, he will take the lead in the Pro Player of the Year race with just one set of GPs and one more Pro Tour to go before the title is crowned, taking over from Reed Duke, who briefly managed to take over in terms of the overall title. Now, both of you, we've got Simon Gertson, we've got Riley Knight, I'm Tim Willoughby here. We know that it's going to be a close match. Who are we rooting for?
Well, once again, I'll reiterate the fact that Jeremy Dezani is playing for absolutely everything in this match. We've seen. I have no hesitation in saying that this game is one of the most important games we could possibly bring you here from GP Milan. Splitting the Player of the Year race wide open. Jeremy with everything to play for here. This is absolutely seat of your pants. Really, really exciting magic.
And Simon, you like Nico here, right?
I like Nico here. I like the fact that he started with Font of Futility, one of the key cards in his deck. He won the semifinals by ramping into Polis Crusher, and he just knows that he just has to stop the early aggression by Jeremy Dezani, and he wants his more expensive spells to carry him to the trophy.
So Arexa's Sun Guide potentially offering a little bit of life gain for Jeremy Dezani, but a whole bunch of life gain coming for Nico Bohny too there with that Disciple in play. Already got the 3-3, which is kind of trumping the 2-2 from Dezani in the early game. Now, Simon, I think you said that Dezani is playing just 16 lands in his deck. Potentially, if he can't get off to an early start here, he might have trouble getting traction, right?
He had a tough decision to make. A pretty good mana base, only a few single blue cards, all his white cards, single white. Then I think just two 6-drops, Evangel of Heliod and a Sea God's Revenge. So he opted to go for 16 lands, and we've seen him miss his third land drop more often than he made it.
Battle-wise hoplite there from Jeremy Dezani. So getting creatures on the board, but here we have the 3-3 coming in, and Dezani left with a question because there's a Swordwise Centaur. His board is not, sorry, Nico Bohny's board looking a lot better than Jeremy Dezani's right this moment.
Not too difficult for Dezani's creatures to be outclassed. A lot of them very underpowered, not underpowered necessarily, but very cheap creatures with low stats. And Dezani really wanting to get on the front foot, wanting to cement this position, of course, and overtake Reed Duke in the Player of the Year race. Unfortunately for him, though, Nico Bohny with some early play that's putting a spanner in that works already.
Nico Bohny surprising me here with a very aggressive attack. Melia's Disciple just getting in there, no fear of a double block, no fear that his 3-2 might not be enough of a defense. He's just getting in there, knowing that he wants to take advantage of the mana stumble, even though he hasn't played a land last turn either.
No guts, no glory, and of course plenty of glory to the winner of this match. So Dezani now getting stuck in. Do we think Swordwise Centaur's got the block here?
He already declined the block.
Okay. And another Sun Guide, but tellingly no third land for Jeremy Dezani. At least he's got plays, but I mean, I guess that the real strength of all these 2-drops is when he can cast 2 spells in one turn, right?
That's right. I mean, he'll have plays for days with the number of 2-drops that he has, but that race for Wolves going to make life very, very difficult for him, because really going wide and tall with the enormous Swordwise Centaur and those 2-2s for 2.
And if I remember correctly, Jeremy Dezani passed that race by Wolves.
I tell you what, I do remember that. I do remember that, Zimon, so there you go.
Just such a high impact card. No surprises that it has made its way into the finals together with Nico Bohny.
I mean, I love the way that Nico Bohny approaches drafting this format. He's quite often playing more colours than his opponents, but he's got such an understanding of how the format goes that he's able to masterfully build his mana bases, build his fixing, such that that doesn't seem to really give him any kind of a hold him back at all, I guess.
Jeremy Dezani has found his third land. Also, his creatures are stronger than what we've seen previously, with him actually having real 2/2s on the battlefield. However, the Centaur is a 5/4 right now, and even the Elias Disciple could continue attacking. The Wolves are also threatening to get in there. Now, Jeremy Dezani could target his Battlewise Hoplite with a Retraction Helix. The question is if that's going to be enough, or if Nico Bohny has an instant response.
I mean, that one of the other benefits of playing a lot of colours is that, in principle, there's an awful lot more responses that he might have to anything that Dezani wants to do. Quite an aggressive attack here from Nico Bohny. It's coming in with everything. Obviously, if some of those wolves do bite the dust, then the Raised by Wolves itself won't pump the Battlewise Centaur quite so much. So a house of cards that, in principle, could get knocked over a little bit here, depending on Jeremy Dezani's blocks.
So Dezani, considering his blocking options here, that block of the Wolf with the Battlewise Hopper, rather telling. I think we'll see a Retraction Helix here for sure.
Jeremy Dezani also picked up Raised by Wolves to reread it, signaling to Nico Bohny that the text on Raised by Wolves is actually quite relevant to this board state.
Yeah.
And those Erexor Sun guys, they did good work in the semi-finals against Marcio Carvalho. Life gain, very important in what was a kind of an aggro mirror there. This certainly not the same beast in terms of the sort of matchup that Jeremy Dezani has to fight his way through.
I think one block that Jeremy Dezani has available here is to block both Wolves and the Swordware Centaur with his 2/2s, because if everything goes as planned, the Wolves are gone, and then Swordware Centaur is only going to be a 2 toughness creature.
So there's a Retraction Helix, as predicted, masterfully, by one of us. I can't remember who it was, but it was one of us.
If in doubt, I'm going to give Simon the credit on most of the called shots. I've seen so many called shots from Simon.
This has been my weekend of called shots.
You've done remarkably well.
I think the call on Stymied Hopes in the quarterfinals is probably what's going to live in my memory for the longest.
All right, and Nico Bohny with a full grip, and there's something. Yeah, Aspect of Hydra, very nice in such a green heavy deck. There's something to be said about these kind of matchups. From the blue-white deck, from the blue-white heroic deck, you always expect the trick. But from the rampy deck that might have a constellation theme that's looking to interpret the signs, those decks just often don't have the space within their 40 cards to pack too many tricks. So that Aspect of Hydra might be one of the very few ways for Nico to actually interact with that combat step.
And it was never really going to get much better than it was there. I mean, he had plenty of devotion at that exact point in time, and it's not something he could rely on having later in the game. So a well-timed trick there from Nico Bohny to sort of re-up against the tricks of Jeremy Dezani.
Jeremy pulled out 2 very tight matches. The quarterfinals and the semifinals were an uphill battle for him. At points it looked like he had almost assuredly lost, and then somehow he got there with the help of Hopeful Eidolon, or with just a single +1/+1 counter, changing the math, changing the combat math.
I mean, Jeremy Dezani, someone who we've seen successfully overcome difficult board positions basically all year. This is like Theros has been his year. I can't help but think that he's going to be a little bit sad that Theros Limited is going away, because it's been very, very kind to him this year.
Certainly, I mean, he's really been a hot contender the entire year for the Player of the Year race, and as we've said, this match going to be absolutely crucial. Even if he loses, he's still at 69 points, Tim. He's still only 1 point behind Reed Duke.
I'm sure that's something that Reed Duke is well aware of at the moment. This is not the way that he really wanted to see things going this weekend for the Frenchman who was right on his heels.
Do you guys know how many Sea God's Revenge are in the top 2?
2 at least.
Oh, really?
Nico Bohny has one, Jeremy Dezani has one. I think we're witnessing the power of this sorcery.
Yeah, a card that really shone in Triple Theros. One of those cards that you really would just slam dunk first pick as soon as you saw it, and sort of maybe gone off in popularity. Principally, I would say because we aren't seeing as many copies now.
Yeah, hard to make an impact when there's simply less copies of it to open. I mean, it was one of those cards that every now and again you kind of felt yourself a little bit hard done by if you had to play one defensively, but on offense, hard to come up with a sorcery with more impact, at least at that rarity. So Jeremy Dezani on just 5 life now, and 3 lands in play, a stacked hand, but realistically the most he's going to be able to do is cast a couple of spells here, and a couple of spells might not be enough because those wolves are getting hungry for some French blood.
I like how Tim didn't even commit to who he's rooting for. He's gonna wait.
Oh, he's a master.
I'm rooting for Magic the Gathering. I just want there to be a fantastic match.
The most beautiful diplomatic response I've ever heard is Jeremy Dezani plummets to 1 life here.
I mean, the real story is that, quite frankly, whichever way it goes, I'm going to be pretty happy because we've got 2 fantastic players in the final. I know both these players fairly well. Because they've been doing so well, there's been a fair few interviews with both of them over the years. And there we have it. The cockatrice not even really necessary, but, you know, Nico decides to show it off because just to, you know, put the final nail in the coffin for that game 1. Nico Bohny 1 game up in this final. And if Jeremy Dezani wants to get ahead of Reed Duke in the Pro Player of the Year race, he's going to have to do what we've seen him done time and time again, which is keep on winning.
That's right. He's really got to hit his straps, find some of Michael's special stuff, and really get stuck in game number 2 and bring it home for Team Rock and Roll if he's wanting to overtake his worthy adversary on the other side of the Atlantic.
And of course, in terms of the GPs that are set to come, the next GP's not in Europe, so if Jeremy Dezani is going to travel across to them, he's going to have to worry about jet lag a little bit more than this one, certainly. Whereas Reed Duke, I think there is one US GP still to go. Boston Worcester, which is the weekend before the Pro Tour, which will be a fairly straightforward one to travel to, but it's modern, it's the week before the Pro Tour. Do you really want to be mixing up your formats that much to gain a few extra points going into the Pro Tour? I don't know is the answer to that one.
Zima, my question for you at this point, you played in a Pro Tour, haven't you? Did you play in a Pro Tour? I feel like you played in a Pro Tour at some point. I don't know, I can't remember. In any case, you probably played in a high impact, a really high pressure game like this. Maybe you went like 3-1 in F&M one time or something. But I just want to ask you at this point, what is the real... What separates the wheat from the chaff in this instance in terms of keeping a solid mindset going into a game when you're 1-0 down, when you're playing for all the marbles in this way?
I think it's really the focus of being able to focus on what matters. Jeremy Dezani will know exactly which cards he's seen. He might have some extra information about Nico's deck based on the previous 2 rounds. He might know things from the drafting portion, cards that might have ended up in Nico Bohny's deck. So it doesn't really matter that he's 1 game down. He knows that he's battled back in the quarterfinals and the semifinals and in countless other matches throughout this season. So it's really just a question. Whoa. It's really just a question, is he bringing in stymied hopes again? Is it going to win in game 2 again?
So this here, you see Garrick staring us down. Pro Tour Magic 2015, the culmination of this Pro Tour season, not far off. August the 1st to the 3rd, 2014, Portland, Oregon, USA. The format, standard constructed, Magic 2015 booster draft. We've not even seen all the cards from Magic 2015 yet, and that's going to be the final deciding factor on this year. And this is where we're heading to very, very soon, because that is going to be the very end of this pro season. And Garrick, who's staring us down right now, he is going to be previewed this very evening.
I tell you what, can I tell you, Tim, I haven't been this excited for a core set since last year, because I tell you what, M15 looks to be absolutely all out fantastic. So the cards we've seen so far, really exciting. I'm really looking forward to getting to play with them. And really, the last couple of core sets have really hit their straps. It's been it's honest to God magic. It's fantastic stuff. And M15, I suspect, is going to be no different.
Well, Magic 2014 was amazing in terms of limited, and a lot of very interesting cards in Magic 2015. A lot to be excited about. But let's go back to our final, because Oreskos Sun Guide has come down. Jeremy Dezani, he's playing fast. He's hungry to try and battle back against Nico Bohny after a slightly tricky game 1 for him. Let's see whether or not he can apply the aggression that he needs to in order to square up this match.
No font of fertility from Nico Bohny, really a key part in powering out those 4 drops ahead of time, Zima.
Also no 2-drop, no Starway Centaur, not even a Dakra Mystic to block Elite Skirmisher with. Just taking things very, very slowly. I mean, he knows what he's up against. He knows how fast Jeremy Dezani's deck is, because if anything, Jeremy Dezani will have 2 drops, 3 drops, and then start bestowing hopeful Eidolons.
4 lands on turn 4 for Jeremy Dezani. This is a rare occasion.
Unprecedented with his deck.
But you know what? He picked the right time to do it, because now he gets a chance to potentially play 2 spells this turn, and that's exactly what the aggressive decks want to do. Hit enough lands that they can start going I've got cheaper cards, but I can play loads of them and really put you under pressure.
That's right. Really looking to overwhelm or swamp Nico Bohny with the cards that the cheap cards that he's got in his hand here, and being able to use his mana efficiently and deploy them in a timely manner. Really, really important. Having said that, he has passed the turn without using any of his mana. He's got 4 of it available. Thinking about this. This Chorus of the Tides, but no, he moves to his untapped step. So with 4 lands, still not able to use them.
The slow start by Nico Bohny is now really being punished by the elite skirmisher, because every single targeting effect, it just means that Nico Bohny will have such a hard time blocking, and Jeremy Dezani might actually be able to target the skirmisher and develop his board. I think Nico Bohny kept his hand because of the power of Raised by Wolves, but this game is going to look a lot harder from Nico's perspective.
So Dezani here having a little think. These matches, once we get to the finals, not timed. I mean, yes, the players will get in trouble if they're playing so slowly that it seems like they're intentionally stalling or anything. You know, we all want to get out here at some point. But right now, I don't think any of us mind seeing a little bit more time, a little bit more magic from this. I mean, it was a stacked top 8, and star power has not diminished greatly now that we get to the final.
No, it's a stacked final, just as it was a top 8, and what a great final as well. Really reflective of the high quality, the caliber of player that have rocked up to get underway in Prix Milan this weekend.
I mean, also, what does it say about the format when you say we're at the very end of the format? This is the time where the players should know the format the best, and our top 4 was 4 amazing pros, and our final 2 amazing pros.
After draft 1 of this day, we knew that there would be an insane top 8 lineup. That's pretty crazy when you think about it. 3 rounds before the top 8, you actually know that there's going to be so many pro points.
That's right. I mean, yeah, rain, hail or shine, we're definitely getting our money's worth here with this top 8, and this final really pulling out all the stops and showcasing what European Magic has to offer for the world.
Watch out, Reduke.
Watch out, Reduke, you are unnoticed, my friend. As a Raised by Wolves comes into the battlefield.
Gets a scry.
Gets a scry thanks to the Chorus of Tides.
And Dezani here, just making sure that he understands everything that's going on. I'm sure he's played against and with Raised by Wolves a number of times, but it never hurts to have a little read before committing to your plays.
It's the one card that he's read this match, but he's read it twice.
He's read it twice, that's right.
If in doubt.
He is like Santa Claus with the list he's made. He is checking it twice to make sure he knows exactly what he's up against.
Is it naughty? Is it nice? I guess it all depends who's controlling it, right?
That's right.
Talking about powerful outcomes, the Raised by Wolves does compete with Seagull's Revenge, if you ask me, considering the board impact, also the pressure it puts on when it comes down early on in the game. It's basically a 3-for-1 on a single card.
So Nico Bohny having a little bit of a think about what to do here. Can't afford to be aggressive, which was where he was able to win game 1 on just 8 life here. Satyr Wayfinder gets another creature on the board. Let's see what it sticks in the graveyard.
Nico gets a land here, but
at what cost?
Interpret the Signs and Rise of Eagles in the graveyard. 2 of his key spells, I would say.
Yeah, really some high impact cards there, although he is going to need to find some extra ways to shore up this match. Facing down a little bit of pressure, he has stabilised quite nicely with that Raised by Wolves, but still with his back against the wall, only on 8 life.
This is where it's nice to be facing blue-white, because there aren't too many ways for these 8 points of life to be threatened by burn. And we know that Jeremy Dezani does not have a card like Glimpse the Sun God, which could just kill Nico out of nowhere. Seagull's Revenge, on the other hand, is still a very threatening possibility.
Yeah, I think the Frenchman to the left of the screen would be pretty happy to see that on top of his deck.
I mean, it's kind of a race to see who draws Seagull's Revenge first. Either player that draws it is going to be pretty happy to see it, right?
It's more important for Jeremy, though. Nico wouldn't gain all that much except for one turn where Jeremy has to replace his cards. And Nico is not trying to win this game on the spot. He's trying to control the game with Dakra Mystic once again. And just as we saw in the game against Floch, he's going to try to get these high impact cards and flooding Dezani, who doesn't really have to do anything with the mana.
Dezani already a little bit flooded with his 7 lands. I mean, he hasn't deployed many threats in recent times, so definitely Nico Bohny, the longer this game goes, the more hopeful he'll become that he's going to be able to claw his way back into it.
Another card that has won Jeremy Dezani multiple games this top 8 is the Avenger of Heliod, and it would currently generate him 6 1/1s, and at that point he might actually be able to just attack into Nico Bohny's defenses that aren't all that impressive, given that two of the creatures are 1/1s themselves.
So after a great deal of thought, Jeremy Dezani says, you know what, get busy living or get busy dying, I'm getting into the red zone.
In they come, that's right, taking the red Shawshank a line of thought here with his approach to attacking. And good on him too. I mean, he's got to live by the sword, die by the sword. So excellent stuff from him as Nico Bohny considers his blocking.
I have to admit that I don't have a read on Jeremy Dezani this time, but I'm going to go on a limb and say it's Ajani's presence.
Yeah? You think so?
I'm just guessing. But
just guessing?
I mean, he's got enough mana that it will be a very, very powerful Ajani's presence.
The question is if Nico can afford to play around it.
So there we see Olarada typing up the text coverage of this feature match. That will be available on the magicthegathering.com website very, very soon. Ola, of course, himself a Hall of Famer with a couple of Pro Tour wins, so certainly eminently qualified to give us all the detail on this match in the text coverage.
Unfortunately, lacking the... oh, there it goes. You know what? I'm not going to waste any more time about this. Look at that as Ajani's presence. There you go. Simon Gertzen with a smile that could swallow the moon. It's so big. Look at this guy go. And Ajani's presence, calling it from the hip as well. Well done indeed to Simon Gertzen. Congratulations, the real winner this weekend.
Believe it or not, we're not working on a tape delay here where actually Simon watches the match about 5 minutes ahead of everyone else.
It seems to be that way, does it not?
He's actually just that good.
Oh, you played at the Pro Tour once, didn't you, Simon?
Yes, I did.
Yeah? You played it once?
When they still allowed me.
They still let you in. Oh, dear.
So a life gain trigger there as Urska Sun Guide untaps. Jeremy Dezani's life, not the bigger concern, but Nico Bohny looking moribund on his side of the board, not looking too sharp. He's going to have to find something fairly big to stay alive more than a turn or two here.
Nico Bohny got out of this relatively unharmed. He only took 2 points of damage and he lost his 1/1, so he still has the larger creatures to play defense, and also Cars of the Tide still large enough to hold off any further attacks.
That Akron Mastiff, though, that's going to be able to lock down his biggest defensive creature, of course. It'll be interesting to see exactly what impact that 2/2 tapper has on this board state, Zimmer.
There's basically 2 modes of operation for these tappers. One of them is to just tap down a creature in the opposing turn, either at the beginning of combat or even better at the end of turn, or you just use it aggressively, but then there might be surprises waiting for you. Of course, the third mode is a hybrid of these two. You tap a creature at end of turn, you tap another creature, so that every 2 turns you will have 2 creatures that aren't available for blocking. I'm sure that the Fleetfeather Cockatrice by Nico Bohny could throw a wrench into Dezani's plans, though.
I thought I saw a Boom Satyr in Nico Bohny's hand as well. Is that something that was in his draft?
I haven't seen Nico's deck list, but I think Boon Satyr is definitely a possibility. Can he even cast both of these flash creatures? That would make the Chroma Mastiff potentially regret his choices,
Flash,
his life choices.
Could save every one of us. Well, there's the Cockatrice.
Nico knows that his best creature is getting tapped anyway, so he might as well get one of these onto the battlefield, given that he has more gas to work with. I think this should be a lesson for all the control players. You have to build your deck in a way that you're just happy to draw lands at whichever stage. If you can utilize your mana, then you're most likely winning, and that just means that you've put the critical amount of high impact cards into your deck.
I mean, the monstrous ability on the Cockatrice, just another way that Nico Bohny can utilize all of those lands that he's got. I mean, the flash means that he doesn't need to tap out at the wrong moments. He can do everything at that magical moment, the end of your opponent's turn.
The best time to play any form of Magic, in my considered opinion, really. I don't know, these Philistines, these peasants attempt to play Magic in other times, like the main phase or declare attack. I mean, at the end step is where the true magician plays his Magic.
And Excoriate there, dealing with the Cockatrice. So that one threat dealt with by Jeremy Dezani, but he's still sort of tiptoeing his way around to try and find these last 6 points of damage. Kind of living off the top of his deck as while Nico Bohny has a number of cards in hand, not necessarily exactly what he wants to be doing.
Jeremy Dezani is also putting on a clinic on how to play an aggressive deck, but not over-eagerly aggressive. You want to use your Chrome Mastiff just with the right dosage, and you want to tap the Curse of the Tides. You always want to have that option to use it aggressively, but it's always safer to just use it once a turn and then see if the coast might become clear.
And what's Nico Bohny got next?
It's definitely a Boon Satyr in his hand.
Haha. That's not a called shot anymore, that's just you spotted it.
That's just you spotted
yes,
it.
I saw the silhouette on the card.
You could have just slow rolled us all. I mean, he's moving his cards
Not
around,
I,
so-
not I.
No,
Not the guys in the chat. I'm pretty sure that they've been paying attention to this one. Thank you very much to everyone that's contributing in the chat. It's lovely to have you here, by the way. We are reading it.
That's a huge play. I was wondering why Nico was suddenly getting aggressive with Curse of the Tides. The reason is a post-combat hubris, returning Raised by Wolves to his hand as well. I think we've seen that before at a GP, and it was absolutely devastating.
So he gets to recast Chorus of the Tides and then recast Raised by Wolves?
And just doubles the amount of wolves that he has in play as well.
So that means, sorry, he's now got a wolf that was raised by wolves, as presumably most wolves are. And
so I'm really happy to see that some of the egregious flavor violation of Raised by Wolves, because of course that's not Greek mythology, it is Roman mythology, being corrected here by Nico Bohny. He's your friend and mine, making sure that everyone's well and truly taken care of with this flavor stuff. So as you correctly pointed out, Tim, that wolf probably indeed Raised by Wolves.
as most wolves are, but that wolf now a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wolf. So the alpha wolf being the younger one.
Let me count. That's 2 plus 4 wolves.
Oh, I apologize. Yes, 6.
A generational wolf family here. It's glorious to see from Nico Bohny.
And God-favoured General there coming in for Jeremy Dezani. If he wanted to now, an option, not necessarily his best option, but something to consider, is he could tap his own God-favoured General, not God-flavoured, that would be weird,
as well,
in order to get the Inspired trigger each turn, gradually build up a force and be able to attack.
And do you know, Tim, what happens when the God-favored General untaps?
There is an Inspired trigger that could work out rather well.
And then there are going to be 2 Constellation triggers on the stack.
Ooh.
Oh, indeed,
yes.
the soldier tokens brought in by the God-flavored General, they are in fact also enchantment flavored. So those guys are going to trigger the Harvest Guard Alceids.
You were mentioning earlier on various flavour fails. I feel like we've committed enough of them in the last couple of minutes. We should probably just get back to regular Magic. And by regular Magic, I mean the amazing finals of Grand Prix Milan. There's Chorus of Tides again. That the one flyer in play.
I really like how Nico is not afraid to deal damage here. Jeremy Dezani is continuously declining to tap in the combat step, in the beginning of combat step. Nico Bohny is just saying, well, if I can get in for 6 here, I think my defenses will just hold. I will get in for 6 damage. And Jeremy Dezani is doing what we just said, getting these 2 soldier enchantment tokens, 2 triggers from Harvest Guard Alceid. Now, the one thing that we can expect here is 2 of Jeremy Dezani's best creatures to be invulnerable until the end of his turn.
Well, a 3/1's a pretty good creature to not take damage, because normally it is pretty vulnerable. Now, not so much.
Was Nico expecting that, or were his calculations based on the fact that he could just kill those creatures should they attack him?
I'm unsure of that, but one way or another...
I wasn't expecting you to be answering that.
Good. You know how much I like to talk, though.
All right.
You've been sat next to me for an entire weekend.
As if the soldier tokens weren't enough, Jeremy Dezani does get to draw a card. And now, Nico, I'm hoping for Nico, of course, you know who I'm rooting for, that these 3 cards in his hand are the answer to the threats that Harvest Guard Alceid's produced here.
We know one of them's a Boon Satyr, and there is the mana to cast it. Oh, there's another enchantment. So that's another Constellation trigger. Also a Heroic trigger to tap down one of those wolves. He's going to tap down the one that's got a wolf for a face. Fair enough.
Yep, Oresco Sunlight also not taking any damage. We've seen this weekend Inspired triggers working really nicely in conjunction with Harvest Guard Alceids, even if the creature is dominated on the board, which is actually not the case for the Oresco Sunlight. You can just gain an additional 2 points of life here.
So Jeremy Dezani able to get a swing in for the first time in a while, it must be said. And Nico Bohny on 6 cannot afford to be taking too much damage here, even though he's not going to be able to get any favourable trades.
No, his blocks aren't very good in this spot, really. All of those creatures having their damage prevented to them on Dezani's side of the board. And so the rather needful blocks that Bohny has to make here, not a great position for him to be in. Having said that, he does have the Flash Bestroke Gem.
Also getting a Scry, which could actually be effectively an extra card here, putting something he doesn't want on the bottom. Now, ultimately the attack with the 6/6 Wolf didn't really turn out to be that great. He could have prevented another 3 of that, or 4 points of damage with it.
So Nico Bohny on just 4 life now and facing down, well, a huge army at this point.
We see why a Crone Master was such a great first pick for Jeremy Dezani.
That card really splitting this game wide open for the Frenchman, able to explore whole new lines of attack, especially with the God-Favoured General to the top of your screen, really proving its worth as a very powerful inspired creature, as we discuss him on, if you can enable it.
Yeah, and in this position, it's even more true than earlier. Now, Sea God's Revenge is a card that Nico doesn't even want to see. Whereas Jeremy Dezani would be thrilled to bounce 3 Wolf tokens.
So this time round, the Clone Mastiff tapping down the Chorus of Tides. The damage already done with the God-Favoured General. And Dezani gaining a couple of life off that Inspire trigger. What happens next?
Actually, Dezani could have declined the 2 life from Ariska's Sunguide, and, well, the 2 damage from Ariska's Sunguide as well, and gotten more general triggers by making the general invulnerable for his turn. That way he would have continuously put out the constellation triggers.
The old God-Favoured General Harvest Guard Alciad's lock, the soft lock.
Infinite combo.
The infinite combo, exactly right. Taking the world of Theros Limited by storm, as you can see on your screen.
And I guess that this way he was able to potentially kill off another wolf. The God-Favoured General could get blocked for no cost.
He did gain something else by making the Ariska's Sunguide unblockable. It's also quite possible that he will have another enchantment, that he's just going to go for an Alpha Strike here. There's a lot of ways to win this and not a lot of ways to lose this game.
And of course, by Jeremy Dezani winning this game, should he win, it means that we all win because we get to see another game in this quite incredible match. So Dezani carefully considering his attacks here.
So we do actually see just an aggressive attack, because Nico is down to 4 life, meaning that this is going to be quite a good attack. And Nico packs it in. He knows that he's dead to this swing.
So there we go. That is a result for game number 2, right down to the wire. This one harder to pick than a broken nose between these 2 players. It could be anything in our 3rd game. Nico Bohny and Jeremy Dezani tied at 1-1 in the final of GP Milan.
Oh my goodness! Anyone want to change their picks?
Why? Jeremy Dezani played this beautifully, I have to say. This was the aggressive decks game to lose. If you do one of these attack steps differently, if you aren't patient enough because you think, oh, I'm losing the late game, then you might find yourself just being dominated by flash creatures.
Yeah, I want to touch upon some comments you made before, Simon, when you were talking about this final really acting as a masterclass for both playing a control deck and playing an aggressive deck. I'm sure many players that aren't quite at the caliber of Jeremy Dezani would assume that as an aggressive deck, you've got to get on the front foot, you've got to send your creatures into the red zone, and just to be eaten alive by a control deck that's able to go bigger and better. By biding his time and by being patient and deploying his resources in a way, and playing in an unorthodox, not readily apparent manner, making sure he gets the most out of his cards, he was able to put up the W from a position that really didn't seem that tenable.
Yeah, and the fact, it was really about seeing these lines, seeing the fact that you could tap your own general, seeing the fact that they would produce constellation triggers, and how that would spiral out of control, with Bohny actually sitting on not too many high toughness creatures. That was the key to this game.
Yeah, despite two raised by wolves entering the battlefield, thanks to that hubris, it wasn't enough. Surprisingly, Jeremy Dezani able to functionally beat two copies of raised by wolves. So a real testament to his patience and play skill as a master of this game. But of course, Bohny no slouch either going into game 3.
And these players know exactly what's up. They also know that this isn't a simple game where you just count the number of cards each player has drawn or the number of tokens they've produced, and whoever generated more comes out ahead.
Yeah,
that's just not how these games play out. It's important, of course, if Nico Bohny manages to interpret the signs for a huge amount and has stabilized the board, that's great. But there's still this balance of cards, life total, tempo. Are you able to cast your spells at the most opportune moments? And if Jeremy Dezani manages to stymied hopes, interpret the signs, for example, just think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, stymied hope's one of those cards that, to me, among the most satisfying cards in the entire block when it works.
It's always great to force spike someone. Like you feel like a genius.
And then you also get to scry.
I know, Riley, you're too young for this, but do you know that there used to be a card that forced players to pay 1 extra and then you got to draw a card?
Tell me more.
It's Rune Boggle. You should look it up.
I should probably look it up. Well beyond my years, but I tell you what, I'll look that up.
It's like Stymied Hopes, but better.
It's like Stymied Hopes, but better. You surprise me.
It does cost.
You surprise me.
It does cost 3.
It costs 3. Well, you know, I'm always skeptical when someone tells me there's a card that's better than Stymied Hopes, but I'll take your word for it, Simon Gertzen.
Riley Knight.
Riley Knight boggled. But not far off now from the one game that this is the only possible way that this weekend Jeremy Dezani could have gone ahead in the Player of the Year race is if he wins this last game of the entire tournament. He came in, the only way that he could even have improved on his pro point rating was to at least make top 8, I believe. And if he wins here, then all of a sudden, Reed Duke is going to have to do something pretty special in this final last 1 GP and 1 Pro Tour in order to be able to take away the Pro Player of the Year title.
That's right, really can't emphasize this enough for the guys at home. An enormous amount at stake here. Dezani, as the #2 ranked player in the world, looking to overtake the world #1 in Reed Duke out of the United States. As Tim told us earlier, Reed Duke hasn't made day 2 at GPDC over in the States, which is going on right now, of course. So Dezani in a really good spot here if he can get 1 more victory under his belt here at GP Milan and become the champion. He will overtake Reed Duke, and that is huge because, of course, it means that Duke is then playing catch-up for the rest of the pro season, and the Frenchman, the champion of Pro Tour Theros, finds his way into the #1 spot.
It's interesting how we talk about the 5 GP cap limit, and we pretend it's like a wall that you hit once you have 5 finishes.
Oh, well, not so, Mr. Secretary.
Jeremy Dezani has broken through that wall. He knows how many good finishes he has, but that just motivates him to one-up himself and prove that he can actually win a GP here.
That's right, yeah, and you can see that it's about these pro points, it's about the prestige, it's about everything that's on the line at a GP like this, a massive tournament. And Dezani, one of the most committed players, in it to win it, ready to get underway. And we're going to see exactly how that dedication, how that determination pans out in game number 3.
And one thing that I can say from experience is that winning a Pro Tour really makes you want, as a relatively unknown player, really wants to make you show the world what else you can do.
Yeah, that it wasn't a fluke.
Yes, you don't want to play a GP and lose on day 1 and then play another GP, lose on day 1, get to the Pro Tours that the qualifications gave you, but then you drop off the charts. Jeremy Dezani has shown that he's in there to stay.
Yeah, this Frenchman is not a flash in the pan. He's come out with all guns blazing, won a Pro Tour at the now currently ranked top. In the top 2, he's the #2 in the world, of course, and that could change within the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, absolutely critical moment, and the players, kind of amazing to me how calm they both look in the feature match area. I mean, while they've been here before, they both know how important this is, and nonetheless, you know, it's kind of just another game of Magic.
Your brain shuts off everything else.
Yeah,
it's really fascinating. It's some people like to call it being in the zone or whatever, but it's just such a focus over such a long period of time. Your brain just doesn't recognize that there's somebody typing, that there's somebody commentating, that there's somebody taking down chairs in the venue. It doesn't really matter.
No, all that's going on in Dezani's mind now is, geez, I hope I can get some value out of this Stymied Hopes.
Mulligan to 6 by Nico Bohny.
And I mean, between the two decks, he has got an extra land, so in that sense, he mulligans a little bit better, but Jeremy Dezani's deck, just the poster child of a deck that can punish a slow draw, right?
Basically, that's what we saw in game 2. Nico Bohny with the powerful race by wolves, but ultimately falling behind on the battlefield too quickly. Now, I wouldn't overvalue these mulligans. Nico Bohny, a player of his caliber, he knows what he needs to look at. And if the 7th card that he sees, he isn't confident in them getting him where he wants to be, he's going to mulligan, and that's not a death knell?
Death knell.
Death knell by any means.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily just that he drew a hand and it was 7 spells and said, well, I can't possibly keep this because it's 7 spells. It may be that he got a hand that was, 2 lands, 5 spells, 3 lands, 4 spells, but they just weren't the right spells in the right order that he thought he was going to be able to win the game.
Yeah, that's right. He's got to be able to look at a hand and evaluate it and say, I can see how this hand is going to sculpt me a path to victory. And it seems that his 6 has been satisfactory as he kicks things off with the Dacra Mystic.
Yeah, that could easily mitigate the disadvantage of the mulligan here.
And there's a Boon Satyr in his hand as well, so in principle, Nico could be the beatdown. He's already suggesting that he's possibly not going to take that route, though, not attacking with Dacra Mystic on turn 2.
Clearly not in his interest to get in for 1 point of damage when he could just start flooding each player with cards here. Oh, that's a tough one. Crone Mastiff almost single-handedly winning game 2 here.
Yeah, Pin to the Earth, yes, it deals with something, but he'd rather not let Dezani have the Crone Mastiff, instead choosing to have both players put those cards in the graveyard. And Font of Fertility there, that could be a nice one for Nico Bohny, just sorting out his mana a little bit. He decides that he's okay with Dezani getting an Excoriate.
Especially him knowing about the Excoriate is valuable on its own.
A card like Font of Fertility, really, really crucial in coming back from a mulligan, able to fish a land out of your deck. It's going to fix you, it's going to find the land that you need in order to execute your slightly hamstrung game plan.
And Nico Bohny is holding Race by Wolves again, so this will not only give him the 2nd green source for Boon Satyr, but also for Race by Wolves. Also the 5 mana needed to bestow or enchant a creature here.
So Eagle of the Watch coming down for Jeremy Dezani, a 2/1 flying vigilance, a pretty solid creature, and we know that while Nico Bohny does have some ways of making flyers, he's got sort of the Rise of Eagles, for example, and that Cockatrice.
He was really hoping to just reveal a forest off of the Dacra Mystic. Clearly, Fleetfeather Cockatrice is a very, very good card to see here, but he was looking for lands with that activation.
Dezani, of course, also staring down the barrel of a plane. So are we going to see the cards hit the hands? We are indeed, by the look of it, says Bohny. But no follow-up land for him.
Forest would have allowed him to just play that Swordrise Centaur, and it makes such a big difference if you're going from 18 to 16 or if you're going from 18 to 14 already, with your opponent potentially deploying 1 or even 2 threats here.
Yeah, giving Dezani the land, not exactly what you want to be doing, but I mean, giving anyone any cards, not ideal.
It's actually exactly what you want to be doing. I mean, you want to be drawing cards with Dacra Mystic, and then lands is the best card to give Dezani.
So Dezani, I think already maybe perhaps sniffing victory here. He's going to deploy some more threats here in a God-Favored General and a 2nd card as well. This is what we've been talking about, gentlemen. This is what we've been talking about in the aggro deck, deploying its threats in a timely manner, able to put 2 cards into play. So Dezani here with 4 creatures in play, all of them with 2 or greater power, against Nico Bohny's lone Dacra Mystic, which isn't going to be on combat duty, you wouldn't think, not in a particularly effective capacity at any rate. Jeremy Dezani in a commanding position in the opening stages of this game here.
Dacra Mystic might be forced to block Oreskos Swiftclaw here next turn. Nico Bohny doesn't have a high power creature to really stem the bleeding here. Could be going for Erased by Wolves, potentially running into Ajani's Presence. Of course, Ajani's Presence, the best card when you are actually as aggressive as Jeremy Dezani is in this spot. And Nico Bohny with one of the most powerful uncommons here, and I'm not talking about Dacra Mystic. Jeremy Dezani on the other hand, with the tempo, with the momentum, and that's what counts in this limited format.
I'm interested to see his attacks here as he plays his 5th land. It'll be interesting to see the time that he takes, the politics that he plays, the mind games that he enters into as he considers what's going to happen here. in this combat step.
One thing that I've learned about Jeremy Dezani is you can't really say that if he takes a lot of time that he's in a difficult spot or that he might be behind or has a tough choice. He might also just be masking the fact that he has a very powerful spell lined up. As we saw, the prime example, him scrying Magma Jet to the top, but not as a snap decision, but rather painstakingly slowly.
That's absolutely right. Earlier with an opponent on 2, taking his time to scry Magma Jet, a lethal Magma Jet to the top. Jeremy Dezani, a master of mind games, of course, here.
And he's just checking the size of Dacrymys. He's checking the amount of cards in Nico Bohny's hands. He's checking the wording of Fleet Feather Cockatrice.
Yeah, he knows he's seen it, so he's just like, you've got it. I just want to make sure I know exactly what it does, how much it costs.
Before I attack with everything and wreck you with Dezani's presence. He didn't say that. But.
He wouldn't have said
the subtext.
That's the subtext there, of course. Simon Gertzen giving you the straight dope as these creatures come in. And can we have a countdown timer perhaps until we see that Johnny's presence, Simon?
Are you going to ask me if he's going to cast it again?
Is he going to cast it right now?
Yeah, he's going to cast it.
Okay, well there you go. Hot and fresh, off the presses, Simon Gertzen bringing you the latest scoop.
Yeah, not just content with commentating on things as they happen. You want to commentate on them, given the speed that Jeremy Dezani's playing, a couple of minutes beforehand.
I'm the analyst here. So.
Yeah, the Minority Report has already been handed in to Simon Gertzen. I tell you what, he is not mucking around with this analysis.
So Nico Bohny has to decide if he can actually beat a card like Dauntless Onslaught or the aforementioned Johnny's presence here. There's other cards to be aware of. Even Retraction Helix, the fact that Eagle of the Watch has Vigilance could mean that Retraction Helix takes out a Wolf, Dacro Mystic suddenly a 2-2 rather than a 3-3. But Nico Bohny's on 14. Are you just going to take 8 damage and then face the trick next turn? It's not viable.
No, that's right. I mean, there gets to a point of the game where you've sort of just got to make them have it, and almost certainly Dezani has something. I mean, he's playing in a fashion that
Nico Bohny is making the block that plays around Dezani's presence here. He thinks that he might have the best, or no, he thinks that he has the best shot trying to play around the powerful instant from Johnny into Nyx. Jeremy Dezani can't quite believe it, but of course this is still a great attack for him. Being able to deal 7 here. Is he just casting it anyway?
And there is the Ajani's presence. There you go. Thank you very much, Simon Gertzen. You have let us know exactly what is up.
So God-Favoured General escaping that little fracas relatively easily. And Harvest Guide Alcides here coming down. We saw it do some good work in game 2, and potentially, given that God-Favoured General going to untap and Inspired going to happen, could be in second verse, same as the first.
In all the different universes of Nico Bohny blocking, there were a lot of blowouts happening.
Yeah.
And Nico Bohny found a block that left him not only live, but Johnny's presence is even gone from Dezani's hand. However, we see the infinite combo again.
The infinite combo between Harvest Guide Alcides and God-Favoured General. Jeremy Dezani breaking the format before your very eyes as he hunts with that French hunger that he has for that Player of the Year title.
The Grand Prize, Le Grand Prix,
that's
if you will.
That's exactly right.
Worth pointing out, of course, for those in the chat, this is not actually an infinite combo. It's just something that you can do each turn that's all right. The game doesn't go on for infinity turns. Sometimes it feels that way when you're playing against Stasis, but it's really not true.
Did you hear something?
No, I'm just going to ask if you brought your umbrella because someone is raining on our parade, my friend.
And so Jeremy Dezani here, just trying to work out what his Harvest Guide Alcides are going to make immune to them damage this turn.
Yeah, Jeremy Dezani also holding Sightless Brawler and what looks to be Sea God's Revenge, so a single land could actually be a one-sided Wrath effect here. Nico Bohny, there it is, but Jeremy Dezani of course spending the mana to get those Soldier Enchantment tokens. He knows about the Fleet Feather Cockatrice, but has 3 creatures now that won't be taking any damage. Eagle of the Watch. Do you see what he targeted? I'm assuming the 2 inspired creatures.
And the Oresca Sun Guide is
okay, because it has 3 power and he knows about the Fleet Feather Cockatrice.
And there they come. None of them are going to be taking any damage, but Nico Bohny, well, something's going to be taking some damage for Nico Bohny because otherwise he's pretty close to being dead here. So,
what a shock this will be indeed. The card that he revealed from his hand in a rather genial fashion. So Jeremy Dezani could have a little read of things.
Yeah. His best block here is actually to take 3 points of damage, because if he blocks the Swift Claw with anything else, then he loses a wolf or the Dark Mystic, or, well, if he loses the wolf, the Dark Mystic shrinks. All of these things he doesn't want to have happen.
So Nico Bohny making the best plays that he can in this situation, but unfortunately the situation he finds himself not a particularly positive one.
Certainly playing catch up, but playing catch up like an absolute maniac, doing a really, really good job of keeping himself in this game.
The thing is, playing around a card, having the read, does not always equate winning. So despite the fact that Dezani's presence was handled beautifully, we're still looking at a 4-8 creature disadvantage. If Jeremy Dezani wants to spend 3 mana to make 2 more creatures, he's continuing this chain. I'm not going to call it infinite combo anymore.
Not after the savage upgrade
from. If Jeremy Dezani doesn't create 2 soldier tokens, then Nico Bohny is really in trouble, because then Jeremy Dezani is going to spend the mana on one of his powerful 6 drops.
Yeah, he's live for Sea God's Revenge here, of course, which could break this game wide open for the Frenchman.
I think it would be wrong to say that this game wasn't at least somewhat cracked comparatively wide already.
Nico Bohny doing his best here to equalize with his own creatures on the battlefield. I have to say, I would think that there's actually a lethal attack with Sea God's Revenge waiting here. I think Jeremy Dezani is just counting that. If you look at the 6 creatures by Nico Bohny, that would be 3 with the Sea God's Revenge. Jeremy Dezani can put his 3 most powerful creatures to the left, and then he knows that the remaining creatures will deal the last points of damage.
There's the Sea God Revenge. There it is.
And there we have it.
Well done indeed.
Lo and behold, Dezani finds a way to take the lead in the Player of the Year race. We hear the rounds of applause, and there we see his countryman Raphael Levy, Hall of Famer. A whole crowd of people rooting for Jeremy Dezani there, and wow.
Sea God's Revenge taking Jeremy Dezani, the Frenchman, the number 2, into the number 1 spot from the Pro Player of the Year race. Congratulations to him. He has managed to make his way into the final and win the final of GP Milan. Congratulations to Jeremy Dezani.
Oh, look how pleased with himself he looks there. Little kiss from the girlfriend there. She's been watching all weekend long. Very happy to see that Jeremy Dezani is basically just unbeatable this season. He's going to have a quick photo taken with Toby Henke there, the text coverage team, and very shortly we're going to get a chance to speak to our current leader of the Pro Player of the Year race. What a story. Goes from showing up knowing that basically there's only one way that he can possibly overtake Reed Duke in the standings of Pro Player of the Year, that to just be unstoppable. End of day 1, he'd finished with 1 loss and 1 draw. He came in today knowing that he needed to do something pretty special. Rattled off 5 wins and 1 loss in the Swiss, and then once it came to the top 8, well, he just did what apparently Jeremy Dezani basically always does, which is to say, I don't really like losing, I'm just going to do winning. Is that all right?
Takes it home for Team Rock and Roll. Well done indeed to Jeremy Dezani. Congratulations all around to him. And of course, his vanquished opponent, Nico Bohny, giving a good account of himself as well, if we bring it back to the booth.
Tim Willoughby, Riley Knight.
Absolutely.
What a weekend it's been.
It's been an absolute joy to bring you all of the action from GP Milan, and I can't think of a more appropriate finish. I tell you what, this Pro Player of the Year race is absolutely on fire. Reed Duke, I tell you what, mate, you are on notice, my friend. You've got a lot of work to do moving into the final, the end of this season, the pro season.
It's worth pointing out, of course, that since Pro Tour Theros, which was basically the start of our season, Jeremy Dezani's been in front almost the entire time, and by the looks of it, he's just getting ready to come and say hello to us.
He's right here, so I'm going to tell you what, I'll vacate this seat for a much more worthy inhabitant. Congratulations to Jeremy Dezani. Once again, I've been Riley Knight. It's been a great pleasure to have you, but here for an interview with Mr. Tim Willoughby, here is Jeremy Dezani.
Jeremy, I would say we've got to stop meeting like this, but you know what? I'm pretty sure you don't feel the same way. Congratulations, another win, and you know what? You're now currently leading the Pro Player of the Year race. I don't know whether or not Reed Duke was watching, but he's got to take notice of this one.
Oh, for sure, we did well. As usual.
Now, Theros block, it's been very, very kind to you. Obviously, you won Pro Tour Theros, what seems like an age ago now. How do you feel about having to say goodbye to this block, at least in terms of limited play?
Yeah, it's very bad for me, you know. I have so much good result in this format, so I think in my career of magician, I don't like all the limited format. This one I really love him. Yeah, and you don't have any good result in all formats. So, for example, in Zandikar I was really good, but in Miroden with Infect, I can't win a single game. So you know, yeah, sometimes limited you understand it and you draft well, but maybe the next block I never make a D2.
Well, you've made the most of the wins that you've got thus far, and what we've got the opportunity to do now is we can have a look at the final game. We can get it up on the camera here, and you can just talk us through what was going on for you. We're going to speed through the early turns just so we can sort of see the big moments. What were you thinking going into this game? What were the key things you were looking for?
When I opened my hand, I think I had a really good hand because I have all the color, enough mana. Turn 2, turn 3, yeah, I think it was really good. When Nico played his Merfolk turn 1, I know, yeah, he needs something. He was in Mulligan, so yeah, he did some card. I don't know if land or playable. In the first part, I think it was land. So the problem is I have playable and land, and this Merfolk helped me to draw some card. So I have a perfect. My opening hand was good, but after it was perfect. He helped me with the Merfolk. So
yeah, it certainly doesn't hurt to know that you're going to hit your land drops because it means you get to cast extra spells every turn.
Yeah,
and
true.
That's what you did.
At this moment was really important because I don't have the mana number 4. But he revealed a very good card. So I don't know what happened if he put my land in the graveyard, but I don't do the same for sure. He helped me. Yeah, he helped me this turn because I don't have any land, so I have only playable in hand. So now I can play everything. Yeah.
And from here on in, I mean, initially the beatdown started fairly slow, but it sped up pretty quickly. And Nico Bohny missing a key land drop, meaning that you got to do things with God-Favored General.
Yeah, I know in my hand I have a free drop for 2 mana and 1 for free, so it's perfect to make like this, Beast turn 2, Beast turn 3, a double turn 4 is really, really good. I choose to put the 2/2 into play because I don't want to trade my free 1 with the Merfolk. I want to continue, yeah. My plan, I know I have some good late game to beat the wolf, so I don't want to trade as possible my creature with wolves. It's really bad. So I prefer we have both some creature in each board. I don't want to trade. I want we have 10 creature each one on each board because my curve for 6 mana is the 1/3 we put 1/1 for Devotion to White.
Evangel of Heliod,
yeah,
yes.
It's a triple boost.
Yes.
So it's a perfect card when you have a very big board. So it's why I don't want to trade with Wolf.
So basically, even though you're kind of an aggressive deck, you were willing to take it a little bit slowly here. You could see that Nico perhaps wasn't having the best draw and you just wanted to be totally sure.
Yeah. Nico Bohny's deck, I don't know what happened during his quarter and semi-final, but it's one of the deck I love the most. I make a deck tech at the Pro Tour about this archetype. For me it's really good, but sometimes you have some trouble with your mana opening and something. I love this deck because during the draft you are open to everything. So when Nico plays some island and mountain, he can cast any rare of the format, so yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, I think this deck is good, and I'm happy to see he can make final with.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we've seen Nico Bohny make some amazing plays, and we had Simon Gertzen calling a lot of what he felt were the best box that Nico Bohny could make in this tough position. Would you agree that he was playing it right from a slightly difficult position?
Yeah, true. It's just true. At this turn, we can see the synergy with the 2/3 enchantment and the guy who put 2 tokens.
Yeah,
is really good because it just helped me to not trade creature and continue to attack. But okay, if he don't block, if he block, it's just a chump. If he don't block, I can have some aggressive. I can decrease his life. So it's pretty nice because I know and I increase my board too. It's just perfect.
I mean, at this point, your board looking formidable. I mean, from this side of things, it looked like it was kind of a foregone conclusion. But I guess, was there anything that you were worried about at this point?
No, I don't think so. At this moment, I know he will play the 3/3 fly. So yeah, at this moment, I have the triple boost. a triple bounce in my hand, so at this moment I know I won the game for sure.
So the Sea God's Revenge is coming.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of time.
Maybe the only thing that can happen is he play a second red and you know the
Anger of the Gods.
Yeah, Anger of the God. I think for sure it's bad, but yeah, he killed his creatures, but it's the only card I think.
And so here we see it's rapidly approaching the end of the game there. You know that the Sea God's Revenge is coming and you kind of piled up your creatures ready.
Yeah. True. But something strange in this top 8 is I lost my first game.
Yeah?
Yeah, quarter, semi-final and final. I lost my first game because I won in the first part. I don't start it. The second part, because I know I don't start the game in the top 8, I choose to play only 16 land because I know I will be on the draw.
Interesting, okay.
And finally this worked bad for me because I missed some land drop, and so it was not a good choice. After I choose to second and third game if I start or not to play 17 lands. Yeah, because at the beginning I think if I have only 2 lands, okay, I have maybe a 10 drop for 2 in my deck. So if I have only 2 lands, I can continue to play. But it's not really true. If you play only card for 2 mana, 1 each turn, and your opponent continue to add land and play a bigger card, you don't win with this plan. So you can play. My deck have maybe 12 cards I can cast for 2 mana. But if you cast only 1 each turn, for sure you lost the game.
But here we go, the final moments of the game coming up now. So you know that you've got the Sea God's Revenge. You've Bruce Lee'd your way through the top 8, getting a bloody mouth at the start of each game and then beating people in the next 2.
At this point I just count if he's dead or not, because I think I'm so tired, because normally I don't count like that for sure. Yeah, it's enough for sure.
And there's the handshake.
Yeah.
At this point you become champion at Grand Prix Milan. You go up to 71 pro points. So Reed Duke, you need to watch out. Just 1 more GP left, 1 more Pro Tour left. And thank you very much. Congratulations again, Jeremy Dezani.
Thank you to the organizer, and congrats to my Nico Bohny, my opponent.
Thank you. And with that, it's the end of our weekend here at Grand Prix Milan. I've been Tim Willoughby with Simon Gertson and Riley Knight on the video, ably directed by Rich Hagen, the camera work with Stephen Leeming, and of course all the text coverage with Ole Rada and Toby Henker. But thank you very much. It's the end of the weekend here, and see you soon for the Pro Tour. Here we're done from Grand Prix Milan.